I froze as Professor Langstrom leaned in and hissed, "You're completely unqualified." I felt the room tilt. The fluorescent lights flickered. Papers rustled like distant thunder. How did it come to this? I stood behind that lectern, voice trembling, heart pounding against my ribs like a war drum. My palms were slick with sweat. My cheeks burned under dozens of watchful eyes. Then he delivered the verdict. Not ready for this level. And then the entire lab fell into stunned silence. I swallowed hard, trying to force my voice out. I've done the prep. I managed, my words cracking. The projector's glow highlighted his smirk. My slides shifted to the next frame, but my mind stopped on that single word, unqualified. I glanced at my classmates. Some tossed uneasy glances. Others avoided my eyes. Until Emily, my quiet lab partner, stepped forward, clutching her phone. I felt a flicker of hope as she tapped play. And then, what would everyone see when the experiment video started? I wasn't always standing under harsh courtroom lights, heart hammering against my ribcage. I was Emily Santos, lab assistant, evening student, devoted single mother to 6-year-old Leo. I lived in a cramped apartment complex just off Maple Avenue, its peeling paint and buzz of cicadas my lullaby each night. I woke each morning to the staccato beep of my alarm, gulped cold coffee while packing fish sticks for Leo's lunch, and kissed his forehead before he tumbled onto the school bus, oblivious to my worries. I worked full-time as a research assistant at Helix Biotech, handling pipettes and petri dishes, measuring reagents with hands that trembled less every day. I took night classes in molecular biology, determined to earn my master's so I could someday support Leo without 2 jobs. My living room doubled as a makeshift study, textbooks stacked like silent sentinels, scribbled notes plastered on every wall. Some nights, I'd fall asleep with my head on a calculus problem, drooling on notebook margins. I still remember the morning I met Professor Langstrom. I walked into room C, 415, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of cleaning solution sharp in the air. I adjusted my backpack strap and cleared my throat. He sat behind a long oak desk, raven hair sweeping his collar, black-rimmed glasses reflecting the classroom's glare. His fingers tapped a leather-bound notebook. I stood at the podium, chin tucked in, voice steady. "Good morning, Professor Langstrom. I'm Emily Santos, here for your Advanced Biochemical Methods course." He didn't look up. "You?" His voice was low, dismissive. "You?" I almost laughed. I'd aced the prerequisite courses. I'd graduated top of my undergrad class despite working nights. I'd won the departmental scholarship. But instead, I murmured, "Yes, Professor." He scanned my transcript, lips curling. "We'll see if you can keep up." I left that day with my confidence frayed, but determined. I went home, practiced pipetting under my kitchen light, listened to Leo practice his spelling words while I reviewed protein folding diagrams. I told myself I was doing this for him, to show him that persistence pays off. Then the first lab session arrived. I donned my crisp white coat, my armor, and entered Lab B, where rows of benches gleamed under LEDs. The air smelled of agar and ethanol. Mr. Patel, our teaching assistant, greeted me with a nod. His quiet encouragement was a rare comfort. Emily, my assigned partner, looked up from her microscope and smiled shyly. We exchanged a quick handshake and got to work. We spent hours calibrating spectrophotometers, mixing buffer solutions, and labeling centrifuge tubes. I explained the protocol step by step, and she followed along, her fingers steady, her notebook meticulous. When a reagent spilled, I reacted instantly, grabbing paper towels and apologizing to Mr. Patel for the mess. He waved me off. "Lab accidents happen. Just learn from it." I felt a swell of pride. Here I was, juggling motherhood, work, and school, and still thriving in the lab. I could do this. I belonged here. That night, I came home to Leo's wide grin and the sight of him sprawled across the rug, building a tower of blocks. I lifted him into my arms, inhaled his cinnamon-scented hair, and promised, "Mama's gonna finish this degree. We're gonna make it, kiddo." Weeks turned into months. I attended lectures in the morning, held pipettes at noon, tutored undergrads in the afternoon, and coaxed chapter readings into the midnight hour. My coffee consumption doubled, my free time evaporated. But each day I reminded myself, every slide I pipette, every paper I annotated, brought me one step closer to stability for Leo. I kept a journal of my progress, tiny scrawls in a dog-eared notebook. January 15th. Perfect spectrum reading at 280 nanometers. January 22nd. Presented literature review without stumbling. I wrote about Leo's drawings, too. His stick figure family waving under a rainbow. I can't fail him. I won't fail him. Then came the syllabus. In bold red letters, Stage 4, in-lab presentation. Each student will present their experimental design before Professor Langstrom and the class. My pulse raced when I saw that line. This presentation would decide my grade and my future. I spent every spare minute crafting slides on recombinant enzyme kinetics, practicing transitions until my tongue bled with repetition. Could I really stand in front of him and prove I belonged? And that's when doubt crept in, shadowing my every thought. I tried to push it away. I told myself, I've worked too hard to let fear steal this chance. But in the back of my mind, Professor Langstrom's dismissive sneer haunted me, reminding me of why I trembled at the prospect of facing him again. That night, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, dark circles digging trenches beneath them. I ran a hand through my hair. Emily, you've got this. I whispered it like a mantra and shut off the lamp. My last conscious thought was Leo calling. Mom? Can I have a glass of water? His voice a beacon pulling me into dreamless sleep. I woke the next morning with my heart already pounding. The day of the presentation had arrived, and I didn't yet know that everything was about to shatter. I walked into the amphitheater that morning feeling the weight of every eye on me. My slides flickered to life under the projector's harsh glow. My hands trembled as I clicked the remote. Don't drop it. Don't let them see you sweat. I began my presentation on enzyme kinetics. I spoke of Michaelis, Minton curves, and steady-state approximations. I outlined my experimental controls. I even paused to explain why I chose a phosphate buffer at pH 7.4. For a moment, all was calm, until Professor Langstrom's voice slashed through the air. You call this rigorous? He snapped. His tone was flat. His gaze was icy. Rigor mortis, I thought bitterly. My chest tightened. I swallowed hard. Yes, Professor. I selected that buffer because he cut me off. Because you guessed. You guessed, didn't you? His words echoed in the high-ceilinged room. I felt the breath leave my lungs. I forced my voice back. No. I based it on literature precedent and preliminary trials. He shook his head slowly, his glasses gleaming. Preliminary trials? Spill the data. I fumbled to bring up the spreadsheet on screen. The bars wobbled. Red flagged warnings blinked at the margins, warnings I'd hidden with careful formatting. He'll see the footnotes. Then a quiet whisper slipped through the rows of seats. She's masking errors. I stiffened. I scanned the audience. A few students exchanged knowing looks. My stomach lurched. They think I'm incompetent. I pressed on, voice quivering. Here. This peak corresponds to our control sample. And that spike. He interjected, pointing at an outlier. I blinked at the curve's jagged ascent. That was an anomaly. A pipetting error. I corrected it. He narrowed his eyes. Corrected or concealed? His words fell like hammers. I wanted to speak, to defend myself. But the room spun. The clock's second hand drummed. Tick, tick, tick. Then my lab partner, Emily, nudged me under the table. Her eyes were frantic. I met her gaze. She mouthed, stay calm. I drew a breath and continued, though each sentence felt like stepping on broken glass. I ran triplicates. I averaged the results. He leaned back, crossing his arms. Averages are for those who can't handle the truth. My vision blurred. I blinked twice and refocused. Truth. I'd come this far chasing it. I'd logged every detail in my journal. I'd coded my macros, measured my volumes, double-checked every dilution. Yet here I was, accused of fudging data. After class, I lingered in the lab hallway, shoulders hunched. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. My gloves stuck to my palms. I pressed my back against the cold tile wall and closed my eyes. What just happened? Then Professor Langstrom appeared at the end of the corridor. He strode toward me, footsteps echoing. My heart thudded against my sternum. My pulse pounded in my ears. He stopped 2 paces away. The fluorescent glow carved shadows into his cheekbones. He folded his arms. We need to talk. I nodded, voice barely a whisper. Yes, Professor. He motioned down the hall toward his office. In private. Inside his study, the air smelled of old books and anxiety. He sat at his mahogany desk and pointed to a stack of my lab notes. Explain these entries. I leaned forward, touching the edges of each page. Those notes are my lifeline. I flipped to January 22nd, my perfect spectrum reading. Then to February 3rd, my corrected pipette calibration. He tapped a line. Why did you leave this footnote unexpanded? I peered at the tiny scrawl, rerun due to drift. I swallowed. I didn't think it was relevant to the class presentation. He drummed his fingers. Irrelevant. Or inconvenient. My throat clenched. I shook my head. No, it was genuine drift. I corrected it before the final run. He leaned forward, voice low. I don't like guesses, Miss Santos. I like certainties. I felt the walls closing in. Certainties. But science thrives on doubt and revision. I tried to point that out. My voice cracked. Science isn't about certainty. It's about inquiry. He slammed his palm on the desk. Papers jumped. Save the lecture. Prove you know what you're doing, or this course ends here. I stumbled out, head spinning. The hallway lights blurred. My phone vibrated. One new message from Leo's school. Pick up, change to 4 p.m. I stared at the screen. I can't lose this class. I can't lose my scholarship. I can't lose Leo's future. Later that evening, I reviewed the experiment footage. I'd recorded every step with my phone, pipetting, mixing, spectrophotometer alignment. I watched as my hands glided over the controls, steady and sure. I paused on myself labeling tubes. My handwriting was neat. No hesitation. Why would he accuse me? I texted Emily. We need to talk. Urgent. Minutes later, her reply. Meet at the cafe across the street in 10. I grabbed my bag and left the apartment, closing the door behind me. The hallway smelled of boiled eggs and stale carpet. My heart thundered. I rehearsed what I'd say. I have proof. I will clear my name. But as I pushed open the cafe door, I froze. At the corner table sat Professor Langstrom, smiling. And beside him was Emily. What could they possibly be planning? I opened the cafe door and my heart lurched. Professor Langstrom's calm smile felt like a slab of ice in my chest. Emily sat beside him, stirring her latte with trembling fingers. My breath caught in my throat. This isn't right. I crossed the room on unsteady legs. My vision blurred, the clink of spoons and hum of espresso machines fading into a dull roar. I forced my voice out. Professor, what are you doing here? He looked up, eyes serene. I thought we could discuss your presentation. His smile was polite, but his gaze drilled into me. I sank into the chair opposite them. My knuckles whitened around my purse strap. Stay calm, I told myself, though my pulse pounded like a jackhammer. Emily's voice quivered as she spoke first. I recorded your entire experiment, Emily, he said, calling me by my first name. Why is he calling me Emily? He held up his phone, its screen reflecting his face. I have the video here. My stomach dropped. That video, the one I'd trusted to my lab partner, was now in his hands. I felt exposed. You idiot. Why did you show him that? I swallowed. You have the footage? He nodded slowly. Every step, every pipette tip, every calculation. My cheeks burned. Then he'll see the outlier I tried to hide. I forced out a breath. And he tapped his screen. It's impeccable work, Miss Santos. Precise, methodical. No fudging. No guesswork. Just science. You solved the drift issue elegantly. A strangled laugh escaped me. So, you know I'm not unqualified? He leaned back, folding his hands. I do. But I needed proof. I blinked, confusion and relief warring in my chest. Proof. He studied me. You challenge me in front of your peers. You remind me of why I became a scientist and why I became a harsh grader. I wanted you to earn my respect. Tears pricked my eyes. Respect. I fought the urge to sob in public. I looked at Emily. Her eyes glistened with guilt. Then Emily's voice cracked. I'm sorry, Emily. My stomach twisted. Why did you? She bit her lip. He asked me to meet him. He said he valued my opinion. He said he'd help me with the final report if I recorded your experiment. Her voice broke. He made me feel important. I felt bile rise in my throat. He manipulated you, too. I reached across the table and took her hand. It's not your fault. Professor Langstrom cleared his throat. Class is tomorrow. You'll present again, and this time I'll introduce you properly, highlight your work. I'll explain why I doubted you. I'll show them the video. My breathing hitched. Tomorrow. He nodded. Tomorrow. I stood so fast my chair scraped the floor. My legs shook. My chest constricted. I can't do this one more time. I looked at Emily, who avoided my gaze. I ran my hands through my hair. Professor, I need time. He stood, smoothing his jacket. Time's a luxury you don't have. My phone buzzed in my purse. I glanced at the screen. Urgent. Leo fell at recess. Call immediately. My heart plummeted. I grabbed the phone and punched out a number. Mrs. Alvarez? Is Leo okay? Her voice crackled. He's at the nurse's office. He's shaken, but he's alive. You need to come now. I dropped the phone. Leo. My son. My reason for every sleepless night. I felt a storm of panic, anger, and dread. Professor Langstrom raised an eyebrow. Is everything all right? I pressed my palm to the table, steadying myself. No. My son. He sighed, eyes softening just a fraction. Go. Take care of him. We'll reschedule. I stared at him, searching for sincerity. Can I trust him? I felt tears slip down my cheeks. Emily stood and reached for me. I'll come with you. I shook my head. No. You have your own work. She hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. I bolted from the cafe. The bell above the door jingled sharply, echoing in my mind. Outside, the summer air hit me like a wave. My legs felt wobbly. I clutched my bag and ran to my car, mind racing. Why did he drop this suddenly? What is he planning? I started the engine and sped toward the school. Sirens wailed in the distance. My phone buzzed again, another text from the nurse. He's asking for you. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Leo. At the school entrance, I burst through the doors and rushed down the hallway lights blurring past. I found him sitting on a cot, clutching his scraped knee, eyes wide with worry. Mommy, he cried as I dropped to my knees beside him. His face streaked with tears. I gathered him in my arms. His small body trembled. I held him tight. This isn't how it should be. I rocked him back and forth, feeling his sobs against my chest. I can't lose him. I looked up at the nurse. He's going to be okay? She gave me a gentle nod. Just bruises. A good scare. I exhaled, relief flooding me. He pressed his cheek to my collarbone. I won't let anyone hurt you. And then I knew. I'd face Professor Langstrom again. I'd stand before the class, before the judge, and this time I wouldn't tremble. I'd let the truth speak for me. What happens when I step back into that amphitheater? I walked into Lab B the next morning feeling every eye burn a hole through my back. The benches gleamed under harsh LEDs. My heart pounded. My palms were slick. This is it. I froze as Professor Langstrom clicked his remote. The projector flared. My name appeared in bold letters. Emily Santos. Experimental Design Review. His smirk was a blade. I swallowed hard. You may begin, he intoned, voice echoing off concrete walls. I lifted my chin. Don't choke. I clicked the first slide. Then silence. I launched into my introduction, each sentence measured. I outlined controls, reagents, calibration steps. I felt my voice strengthen with every point. I know this. This is mine. But halfway through, he interrupted. Before we continue, Miss Santos, I'd like to show something. My breath caught. He hit play. The video began with my gloved hands meticulously aligning the spectrophotometer. The hum of the machine filled the room, but then Emily's voice overlaid the footage. We ran 5 replicates. Here's the raw data. My pulse raced as the graph appeared. Each curve smooth, each replicate consistent. No jagged spikes. No hidden edits. I glanced at Emily, standing by his side in her lab coat. Her lips trembled. She's doing this for me. Then the camera panned to Professor Langstrom, seated behind me in one clip, nodding appreciatively. He never wanted to suppress me. He wanted proof. I felt tears sting my eyes. I gripped the podium. The video cut to Emily's handheld shot of my face as I explained the anomaly. I caught a minor drift, I had said. But I corrected it. My voice echoed in the silence. That moment was mine, and now it was irrefutable. Professor Langstrom muted the video. The room was still. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Boom, boom, boom. He stood and faced the class. I accused you of guesswork. I questioned your integrity, and I withheld this evidence. His voice cracked, an unusual tremor. For that, I apologize. A murmur rippled through the benches. My classmates shifted. Some leaned forward, doubt and curiosity mingling on their faces. I stepped forward. My legs were noodles, but my voice rang clear. I did the work. I stood by the data, and Emily trusted me enough to record it. I flicked to the next slide, my original proposal, annotated with margin notes and calculations. Everything here is documented. Then Emily raised her hand. "I'm sorry I hesitated," she said, voice small but steady. "I was afraid of reprisal. But science demands truth over fear." I felt warmth spread through me. She's my ally. Professor Langstrom picked up a sheaf of papers from the desk. "I've written a letter of recommendation," he announced, handing it to me, "for your master's application. And I've arranged for you to co-author our next publication." I blinked. My throat tightened. "Co-author?" He nodded at Emily. "Thank you for stepping up. You reminded me why mentorship matters." The room felt unreal, like the world paused on its hinge. My chest swelled. Relief, vindication, joy, all crashing at once. Then he raised his hand, and the benches fell silent. Class dismissed. I gathered my things, legs still unsteady, and turned to Emily. Her eyes shone. She reached out and squeezed my arm. "You were amazing." I managed a laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "We did it." But as we walked toward the door, I spotted a figure in the hallway, Dr. Moreno, the department chair, with a dossier clutched to his chest. His expression was grim. I froze. What does he want? And then Dr. Moreno stepped forward, voice low but urgent. "Emily, can we talk, right now?" My heart skipped. Not again. What could Dr. Moreno want? And how will it change everything we just achieved? I followed Dr. Moreno's long stride down the linoleum hallway, my palms sweaty on the strap of my satchel. What now? My heart pounded like a hammer against my ribs. I kept my face calm. Inside, turmoil churned like a storm. I entered his office, walls lined with diplomas and framed research awards. He motioned to a chair behind his oak desk. I sat, legs pressed together, hands folded in my lap. The afternoon light slanted through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the carpet. Dr. Moreno leaned back, pinning me with a serious gaze. "Emily," he began quietly, "Professor Langstrom asked me to deliver some news." He paused, folding his hands. My mind raced. Was this praise or another test? He exhaled. "Your performance today was exemplary. The footage was compelling. It corrected a misunderstanding and showcased your talent." My heart fluttered, relief washing over me. "Finally, justice." He reached into a drawer and withdrew a crisp envelope. I recognized the university seal on the flap. My master's application. My pulse skipped. He slid it across the desk. "Langstrom insisted I hand this to you personally. Your acceptance letter to the doctoral program." My breath caught. Doctoral program? I blinked, disbelief warring with joy. "Doctoral?" My voice was barely a whisper. He nodded. "He believes you belong there. He's also secured a stipend for your assistantship in his new research project." I pressed my hand to my chest, tears springing. A stipend, a lab, a doctorate, Leo's future. I swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Dr. Moreno's lips curled in a small smile. "Say you'll join us. Say you'll continue the pursuit of knowledge here." I closed my eyes, picturing the late nights in my apartment, notebooks spread on the floor, Leo curled asleep beside me, cradled by my textbooks. I saw myself standing before that amphitheater, no longer a trembling student, but a confident scientist defending truth. I met his gaze. "Yes," I said, voice firm. "I will." He stood, offering his hand. I stood too, and we shook. His grip was warm, supportive. "Congratulations, Dr. Santos." The title felt surreal. I looked down at the envelope in my hands, the university crest shimmering in the sunlight. "Dr. Santos." I let the word roll around in my mind, tasting its sweetness. I left his office in a daze. The hallway lights seemed brighter, each step lighter. My phone vibrated, a message from Leo's school. "Mommy, I miss you. Can I see you tonight?" My heart swelled. I ducked into the research wing to find Professor Langstrom. He stood by the lab entrance, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I approached, envelope clutched to my chest. He straightened as I neared. I forced a steady breath. "Professor, thank you." His stern mask softened. "You earned it, Emily. You turned doubt into discovery." He gestured to the lab's inner sanctum. "I want you on my team. We start next week." I nodded, tears blurring my vision. I'd be honored. He placed a hand on my shoulder, a rare gesture of mentorship. I felt the warmth seep through my coat and settle in my bones. This is where I belong. That evening, I picked up Leo from after school care. He ran into my arms, backpack slung over his shoulders. I twirled him around, inhaling his hair's sweet scent. I missed you, buddy. He grinned, then cocked his head. Mom, did you win your class thing today? I laughed, setting him down. Something like that. I opened the envelope in his presence. His eyes widened at the university seal. Mommy, what's that? He asked. I knelt beside him and showed him the letter. It says I'm going to be a doctor. A science doctor. He beamed. Like Doctor Who? I hugged him tight. Exactly like Doctor Who. He giggled. Can I help you with experiments, Dr. Mom? My heart squeezed with love. Only if you promise to wear goggles. He saluted, eyes shining. Goggles on. Later that night, after tucking Leo into bed, I sat at my desk. The resolution of this journey settled around me like a warm blanket. The once dog-eared lab notebook lay beside me, pages filled with doubts, corrections, triumphs. I flipped to the first entry and traced the ink with my finger. January 15th. Perfect spectrum reading. I smiled. Who knew that day would lead here? I closed my eyes and listened to the tick of the wall clock, the distant hum of the city. I pictured tomorrow, first day as Dr. Santos in Professor Langstrom's lab, side by side with Emily, turning hypotheses into breakthroughs. We made it, I thought. We proved them wrong. Then I reached for my phone and drafted a message to my channel subscribers, my small community of aspiring scientists. Never let anyone tell you you're unqualified. Record your work. Trust your process. And when doubt knocks, show up with proof. I paused. Tomorrow, the real work begins. I set the phone aside, blew out the lamp, and closed my eyes with a smile that warmed me from the inside out. The trial is over. The verdict, I belong. And in the hush of the night, I whispered to myself, we did it, Leo. We really did it. I sat here tonight, the courtroom lights replaced by the soft glow of my bedside lamp. I made it through the trial of doubt, and so can you. I learned that truth doesn't need permission. I learned that every pipette tip, every late-night note, every trembling breath can become my armor. I learned that allies sometimes hide in unlikely faces. Emily, who feared reprisal, and even Professor Langstrom, who challenged me to prove myself. I keep my lab notebook open on the desk, pages whispering encouragement. Record every step. Demand precision. Own your story. And I remind Leo at bedtime. Dream big, kiddo. Your experiments today become your victories tomorrow. I know what it's like to stand under that harsh projector light, heart pounding, voice shaking. I've been there. But I also know how it feels when the video plays and the room goes still, when vindication washes over you like sunrise. I promise you this. If someone ever calls you unqualified, gather your proof. Let your work speak. Let your courage roar. And when you think you're alone, look for the unexpected ally. You might find them standing beside you, camera in hand, ready to share your truth. If you've ever felt unheard, leave a comment below and share your story. Hit like if you believe in the power of proof. And subscribe, because every week, I'll bring you more confessions from the lab, more courtroom dramas of science versus skepticism, and more reminders that you belong here. I'll see you in the next trial. Until then, stay precise, stay persistent, and remember, the truth always needs a witness.